deepfake panel and a deepfake not really live audience, would the people watching at home notice anything different?
No.
Jeez.
Would there be a deepfake host too? No?
No is the answer. Thanks for that question. It's very important.
So what is
topic.
deepfake, just for the viewers who aren't across it?
So deepfake is the ability to take somebody's face, that data, and replicate it in artificially generated media. And recently, I'm sure that the panelists and everybody is aware of OpenAI's release of Sora, and that's basically the ChatGPT version of the video version of ChatGPT. And what you're able to do is put in a prompt and it will spit out something that is actually remarkably lifelike. So yes, there are some nuances where it looks like, oh yeah, there's a bull in that noodle shop, or it's kind of weird, but it's in the background. It's very convincing. So I think it's definitely the case that if we have a deepfake panel and a deepfake host, you won't be able to notice a difference. But I think when it comes to deepfakes, the more important question is distinguishing between good deepfakes and bad deepfakes.
What's the difference?
So the difference is, let's say I used Sora, right, and recreated a beautiful memory I have with my grandmother who passed away, and I decide to upload it on YouTube and make it publicly available. Do we need to detect that and pull that down? I don't know. I don't think so. The problem is when my face is on a malicious piece of content. So let's say it's a deepfake porn, or it's a deepfake financial extortion scheme, or whatever else. That's where the problem is. So I think what we have to focus on is deciding as a society, and for the regulators to define what is malicious, what are the priorities of what is worse and what is better, and how do we detect and mitigate it and moderate it.
Can I ask, though, on that one, if I come across your YouTube video and I go, well, that looks real, that's a real memory, and then I learn that it isn't, is that not eroding my trust in everything that I see? Like, that's what I'm sort of worried about, is even the Kate Middleton example that's come out. We don't know whether that was AI, but...
But it was a doc, just for those, I don't know how you missed this story. But if you're the one person in the world that did, let us help you, a doctored picture of Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales, with her 3 children at a time where she's not publicly available.
Yes.
Right?
And the image has been found by, you know, Reuters, by Getty. They've all said, kill notice, get this down. This has been tinkered with in a way that we don't want you to distribute it as news. So what that does is I then start going, well, I don't trust institutions. I don't trust what the monarchy tell me. I don't trust what the news is saying. We've got war going on and it's popping up and I'm seeing this video and I can just go, I don't believe that's happening unless it's right in front of me. Is that an issue that if we do start to incorporate deepfakes into things that we're seeing? We've got in Israel, there are newsreaders who have basically licensed their image and you can make them say whatever they want. My voice can be licensed in a podcast and I can say whatever. Is that a worry?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky to be connected with the, some heavyweights in trust and safety kind of globally in like China and US, whatever. And the general consensus is that nobody knows, there isn't a global standard or understanding of what even is malicious. What is the priority? Do we deal with like CSAM first and then do we go to NCIS? Sorry for the smart lingo, weird lingo. But what is the priority? And so in that case, for the Kate Middleton example, then do we put in the erosion of public institutions as a priority? Then do all of the doctored images, any doctored image of any public figure, go into the bucket of content that needs to be detected and moderated? So that we need to decide.
So, Brian Greene, we've got a couple of really big elections this year. Really big one in the United States you might be across.
Yes.
It's been dubbed as the first big AI election. Is that how you see it? And what are the risks with deepfakes?
Well, obviously, it's really scary. So the question that you raise is a big one because, yes, there is already distrust of what we see. And, you know, however wonderful your software may be, I do wonder if in the not-too-distant future, the vast majority of the content online will not be trustworthy. I mean, think about content online, it grows exponentially, which means most of it at any given moment of time was only just recently posted, which means now with these tools where anybody will be able to create deep fakes, the vast majority of what's out there will be fake. So what will likely happen is you'll stop trusting everything that you see online, and that will take us back potentially to an old way of assessing the world where you have trusted sources. You don't trust anything if it doesn't come from a source that you trust. Who do I trust? I mean, I trust the New York Times. I trust CNN. I mean, there are places where there are things called journalists who actually spend their life trying to figure out what's true and what's not. And I think we may be forced back into a realm where you don't just look online and what you see is real. You look online and you distrust everything. What you see is not real unless it comes from a trusted source.
That sounds like it might be the best case scenario, though, that people go back to institutions. I want to bring in a guest in our audience tonight who is really at the centre of a lot of these issues. I want to bring in Professor David Blunt. I know you've been following this closely, David. You've heard the conversations around trust and ethics.
Yeah.
What are your reflections?
It's a really interesting conversation. I mean, the first thing that I'll say, with regards to deepfakes, I mean, this is something that has been going on for a very long time. There is a very famous picture of Nikita Khrushchev in the United Nations banging his shoe on the table. That's a fake picture. He never did it. But people will say that they've seen a real picture. So this is an escalation of behavior that's already existed. Now, what I find fascinating about the discussion in AI is that we think about what it will do to us. We heard, will it destroy humanity? Will we have to pull the plug? But we don't think about what we owe to it. This is the first time we have a technology that has the potential to become self-aware, to have a moral personality. Steam engines didn't do that. Nuclear weapons didn't do that. Artificial intelligence may do that. So are we going to one day wake up and the singularity will happen and artificial intelligence come online? And are we going to sort of be like the Lilliputians in Gulliver's Travels, trying to tie it down? Are we actually going to try to think about what we owe it? Because it is, in many ways, our child. What do we owe artificial intelligence? How do we make it live in a better ethical world? Because I'm more worried about human beings than I am about AI.
Well, human beings created the AI, right? So is AI not a reflection of the imperfect humans that made it?
Yeah, I mean, we can say that, nothing sort of straight can be made out of the twisted timber of humanity. But, we still have children, right? We still bring new human beings into this world and we don't despair of them. We hope that they'll do better, right? The young people in the audience tonight, we hope they will do better than us, that they will rise to the challenge of things like climate change. We should think of the same things when we think about artificial intelligence. How will we give it the best start in life? That's producing guardrails not just for AI, but for people and how we use AI, how we shape AI to ensure that it doesn't have all of the bad things that we have, the racism, the sexism, the misogyny. We want to get rid of that in artificial intelligence. And that is a task that we've never faced with something like a steam engine or an aeroplane. That's a novel challenge for us.
That's really interesting, Professor David Blunt there. He is a fellow at the Ethics Centre here in Sydney. Cathy Foley. OK, designing AI not to have all of these prejudices. So far, how are we going with that?
I think we're not quite there yet.
It's a great idea. How's it going?
Look, one of the things is that at the moment it's very biased. So if you look at where AI is often used in a blind way, such as going through looking at a whole lot of applications for a job, and it goes through and screens things where a certain group of people just aren't included because they don't fit whatever is the algorithm that's being used. There's lots of examples where it shows extraordinary bias from whether it's gender, cultural and so on. And that's because a lot of the work and the development is being done by a very narrow group of population, usually people who are males in Silicon Valley. And so if we are having a limited group of people actually looking at developing this technology, we're going to have a very limited technology that comes from that. So what we need to be doing is making sure that the development of technology brings in the full human potential so that we get a bit of everything in there and hopefully live up to that opportunity.
I'm troubled by who is the checker. We have this wonderful institution in Australia called the Australian Electoral Commission, and they've got a mandated responsibility to run free and fair elections. But do they check whether an AI post is accurate? Is it the job of a government? Are we in the kind of information control sphere? We've got great universities that can be doing some of that work. So as we move forward as a society, we're going to have to work out, who is starting to keep an eye on these things. I think this notion of convergence of technology, AI of itself is relatively harmless. AI linked to social media penetrates every bedroom in this country, on this planet, probably. So I think they're the sort of questions we've got to keep working on. Who polices the process?
The one thing I would say is a very interesting question that you raise, but it does assume that the capacities of the AI system are comparable to ours, or at least within the same universe as ours. But as AI increases its computational power by a factor of 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, I think we'll be dealing with something where our experience for the last 200,000 years as a species will just be completely irrelevant. It will just be in a different universe of processing power and a different universe of conceptions and ideas. So I agree that we should try to root out the parts of humanity that we find ugly and things that we don't value. But I think the AI is likely to go to a place that we can't even comprehend.
The problem is some people value what you value and other people
Yes,
value
I agree.
something else.
I agree.
So how you
It is
actually
very difficult.
get agreement on that is
Yeah.
going to be tough.